Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alright guys, Assalamu alaikum. Today we're going to be covering verbs, specifically the objects and the different types of verbs relating to their objects, right? So it comes down to two, and that's transitive versus intransitive. But before we get into that, let's just talk about the three parts of a verbal sentence. We know about the fi'l, which is the verb, or more specifically the action in a sentence, then the fa'il, which is the doer or subject, and then the maf'ul, the object receiving the action, right? So today we're going to focus on the maf'ul and its connection to the fa'il. So there are two types of verbs that come up when talking about the maf'ul. There's the transitive and then the intransitive. Transitive, which is muta'addi in Arabic, it essentially means that it's a verb that needs an object, right? It needs an object in order to make sense. Without that object, it makes no sense. Then intransitive, which is lazim, it means a verb that doesn't need an object, right? So let's look at some examples. Transitive over here. Let's see. Taraka Uzairu qalaman. Uzair left a pen. So taraka means to leave something behind. Even in the nature of that verb, it's asking you to specify what that is, right? So if I just said Uzair left, we wouldn't know what he left behind, right? It would be an incomplete sentence. So we have to say qalaman. That verb there requires that qalaman in order to make sense. Because you'll just be asking, well, what did Uzair leave behind, right? Next up we have dhahaba Muhammadun. This means Muhammad went. Next question would be, well, where did Muhammad go, right? It requires a detail. Dhahaba is leading you somewhere to just ask that question. So we would complete it by saying fil masjidi. Muhammad went in the masjid, or went inside the masjid. Next we have kataba aliyun kitabun. And that shouldn't be Uzair, that should be Ali. Ali wrote a book. So if I just said Ali wrote, it'd be incomplete, because we'd want to know what Ali actually wrote, right? There's more to it. There's something missing there from the story. So that's known as transitive. And just as a heads up, the reason why Sheikh calls it, or the reason why the English language is calling it transitive, is that they're saying that the verb itself needs to be transferring its action into an object, or leading to an object. That's why it's transitive. But in simple terms, it just means it needs an object. That's it. Then intransitive would mean it doesn't need to transfer itself to an object. That's it. Doesn't need an object. Next up is intransitive. So lazim. So طلع الشمس. The sun rose. Complete sentence. Completely fine. You don't need any more details to be said about طلع, because the doer itself was explaining what's happening. So طلع الشمس. The sun rose. Next up, فرح زيد, which means Zaid was happy, right? No more details needed there. It's complete. Next up, how to tell if a word, word is transitive or intransitive. Sheikh told us there's two methods. First is just use the dictionary, or two, look at the context of the sentence and the usage of the word, right? If you just look at how the word is being used, it'll be very clear that fariha, when used with a doer, doesn't really need much more said to it. Therefore, it's intransitive. And yeah, Assalamu alaikum.